Okay, so are you ready to trade in like that morning commute for, the sound of crashing waves?
I am definitely ready.
Me too. All right, so today we are diving into the world of ocean view apartments. You guys sent us a ton of articles and even some real estate listings. I mean, is this just fantasy or could this be like your next move?
Right.
So we're going to break down what makes these places so appealing. We're going to hunt for hidden gems beyond just those like typical hot spots.
Yeah.
And we are even going to crunch some numbers, see if those ocean views come with a solid investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that fascinates me is how much research there is that actually backs up the idea that being near water is good for us.
Mm,
It's not just a feeling, it's like actual science.
right.
Like there was this one study I was looking at and it said that people who could see the ocean from their windows, they had lower cortisol levels,
Oh, wow.
which is the stress hormone,
Interesting.
than those who couldn't.
Huh. So it's not just about a pretty
Alert.
picture. There's an actual impact on our well-being. I'm already feeling calmer just thinking about it.
Right.
But, the articles also talked about a lot more than just the view, right? There's this whole lifestyle
Yes.
associated with ocean view living.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see how that lifestyle is portrayed. There's this image of, tight-knit communities, that classic coastal vibe.
Right.
But, do these locations actually live up to that ideal?
Yeah.
We've got articles here talking about places, from Malibu to a small town in New South Wales called Kiama.
Kiama.
Yeah,
That one caught my eye too. What made it stand out to you?
what they call a Kiama luxury coastal accommodation.
Yeah.
And it's all built on this huge 2,300 square meter lot.
Oh, wow.
So you get that sense of space and privacy, even though it's right on the coast.
Right.
So it seems like they're trying to create that balance of luxury and like connection to nature.
Okay, so it's not just about being near the water, it's about how the design integrates that experience.
Yeah.
Speaking of design, the articles mention some pretty cool trends in ocean view apartments. Lots of natural light,
Yeah.
open layouts, that kind of thing.
Definitely a move towards sustainable design, which makes sense considering the setting.
Right?
We're seeing more and more use of locally sourced materials
Hmm.
and even renewable energy sources like solar panels being integrated into the building's design.
And I imagine those features add to the investment value too, right? Like sustainable living is more than just a trend these days.
Absolutely. In fact, some of the articles even broke down the numbers on rental yields for different types of ocean view properties.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that in some cases, beach residences were actually outperforming traditional hotel rooms.
Really?
Yeah,
So you could potentially buy an ocean view apartment and actually make money from it.
potentially, yeah.
Okay, now you've got my full attention. But beyond the financials, one thing I'm curious about is the activities. It's not all about staring at the water, right?
Of course not. The articles highlighted tons of activities, from,
Mhm.
surfing and paddleboarding to hiking trails, farmers markets.
Oh, nice.
And one even mentioned a thriving art scene in Carmel by the Sea.
So you could have this amazing balance, active outdoor life and cultural experiences all within this beautiful coastal setting. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, that's what we're here to find out. We're
Yeah.
diving into the details to see what's real and what's hype.
And speaking of hype, let's talk about those celebrity locations. The articles mention Malibu, Maui,
Right?
places that are practically synonymous with luxury ocean view living.
Right. But they can also be incredibly expensive and crowded.
Yeah.
That's why I'm actually intrigued by those lesser-known spots, like Porthcurno and Cornwall.
Mm.
The article described dramatic cliffs and turquoise waters. It sounds like a true escape from the ordinary.
Okay, so that's 2 votes for Porthcurno, but what about something completely different? One article actually highlighted the Star Ferry in Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Not an apartment, but a unique way to experience life on the water.
That's a great example of thinking outside the box. It highlights the idea that you don't necessarily need to own a property to enjoy the benefits of being near water.
Hmm. So we've got our luxury options, our hidden gems, and even some alternative ways to experience coastal living. But how does someone actually decide which location is right for them?
That's where things get really interesting. We're about to dive into the nitty-gritty of choosing the perfect spot.
Mm.
The factors that signal a good investment, the
Right?
community vibe,
Yeah.
and how to avoid getting swept away by those gorgeous ocean views and forgetting the practicalities.
So important.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I don't know about you, but my mind is still kind of buzzing from that rental yield table.
Yeah.
Beach houses beating out hotels in some cases. That's a serious incentive to consider ocean view living as more than just a dream.
It is.
Mm.
What's really interesting, though, is that it ties into larger trends,
Mhm.
people wanting those unique experiences, that feeling of a home away from home, even when they're traveling. But we also have to balance that optimism with the realities of coastal property.
Right. We can't just ignore those what-if scenarios. A couple of the articles touched on things like coastal erosion, rising sea levels.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to assess those risks?
Yeah, that's a big one. One article recommended talking to local experts like geologists, environmental engineers,
Oh, okay.
people who really understand the specific risks of a given area.
Okay.
It also mentioned checking for any history of flooding, reviewing insurance policies carefully. It's all about due diligence.
Makes sense. You can't just fall in love with the view and ignore the practicalities. But assuming we've done our homework, where do we even begin the search for
Yeah.
our perfect oceanfront haven? These articles mention a bunch of different approaches.
Right. It seems like the key is to be strategic and resourceful.
Yeah.
Start by narrowing down your location preferences,
Right.
climate accessibility, that kind of thing. Then you can start digging into online real estate platforms, maybe even contact developers directly.
So it's a mix of online research and good old-fashioned legwork. I can see how this could get overwhelming pretty quickly.
It can.
Yeah.
One tip I found helpful was to focus on defining your must-haves versus nice-to-haves.
Okay.
What are the non-negotiables? Oceanfront balcony, walking distance to a surf break.
Right.
Figure those out, and it really helps cut through the noise.
Okay. Priorities first. But even with a clear list, I imagine there's still a ton of information to sift through. Did the articles offer any advice on how to avoid burnout during the search process?
Absolutely. One thing they emphasized was to actually enjoy the journey.
Okay.
Don't treat it like a chore. Allow yourself to get excited about those virtual tours.
Right.
Imagine yourself in those spaces.
So it's okay to daydream a little. I'm picturing myself sipping coffee on a balcony, watching the sunrise over the ocean.
Exactly. Let those daydreams guide you. They can help you clarify what truly matters to you, what kind of lifestyle you're looking for.
I love that. It's about keeping that sense of excitement alive, even when the reality of the search gets tough. Because I know there will be moments of frustration. What are those times when you just can't seem to find the right place or things keep falling through?
Yeah, one article suggested considering alternatives, maybe renting for a while to test out a location,
Oh, interesting.
or looking at properties with partial ocean views if budget is a concern.
So flexibility is key. It's about being open to different possibilities, even if they weren't part of the original plan.
Right. And remember, the dream of ocean view living doesn't have to be all or nothing. There are ways to experience the coast, even if you don't own a beachfront property. Maybe it's weekend trips. Maybe it's something like that Star Ferry example.
Right.
Finding ways to incorporate that element of water into your life.
That's a good reminder that there are multiple paths to the same goal. But speaking of goals, let's get back to the search process for a minute. Did the articles mention any specific resources or strategies that might be helpful?
Yeah, they recommended connecting with local real estate agents who specialize in coastal properties,
Oh.
attending open houses, even reaching out to developers directly.
So it's a mix of online research networking and getting boots on the ground. And did they offer any advice on how to evaluate a specific property once you've found one that catches your eye?
Yeah, one thing they stressed was to look beyond the view.
Okay.
It's easy to get swept away by that gorgeous ocean vista and overlook potential issues with the property itself or the surrounding community.
Right. We need to keep our practical hats on even when we're feeling that emotional pull. So what kind of questions should we be asking ourselves?
They recommended considering factors like proximity to amenities, transportation, links to the overall condition of the building,
Right.
and of course how the property aligns with your lifestyle and long-term goals.
It's about making sure that dream actually fits into your real life, not just your fantasy life. But let's be honest, sometimes those fantasies are pretty powerful. Did the articles mention any common mistakes people make when searching for an ocean view apartment?
One that came up repeatedly was getting so focused on the view that they overlook important details about the property itself. Things like maintenance costs,
Yeah.
noise levels, even the direction the apartment faces,
Yeah.
and how that affects sunlight throughout the day.
It's easy to get caught up in the romance of it all, but we need to remember that this is a major investment, both financially and emotionally.
Absolutely. And another mistake they highlighted was not considering the long-term implications of coastal living.
Mm.
Things like climate change insurance, cost, even a potential for increased tourism, and how that might impact the community vibe.
It's about thinking beyond that initial honeymoon phase and considering what life might be like 5, 10, even 20 years down the line.
Exactly. It's a long-term commitment, so it's worth taking the time to really understand the potential challenges as well as the rewards.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The realities of coastal property, the search process, the potential pitfalls to avoid. But before we move on, I'm curious to hear what stood out to you from all this research. What surprised you or maybe even changed your own thinking about ocean view living? Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. Going through all this research with you, I'm struck by how much ocean view living is about more than just the physical space. It's this
Yeah.
whole emotional and even spiritual connection to the water.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point that often gets overlooked.
Hmm.
We tend to focus on the practicality, the location, the amenities, the investment potential. But the articles you share, they really highlighted that deeper connection, that sense of peace and tranquility that comes from being near the ocean.
I'm curious, is there any science to back that up, or is it just a subjective feeling kind of thing?
Well, there's actually quite a bit of research on the psychological benefits of what they call blue spaces, oceans, lakes, rivers.
Mm.
One study I saw found that people who lived within a kilometer of the coast reported significantly better mental health than those who lived further inland.
So there's an actual correlation. It's not just in our heads.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just mental health. Some studies have even shown that exposure to blue spaces can enhance cognitive function, improve creativity, and problem-solving skills.
Wow, that's fascinating. So maybe living near the ocean could actually make us smarter. I'm definitely feeling more relaxed just thinking about it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, does that translate into a different way of living? Do people who live in these coastal communities actually embody that laid-back, ocean-inspired lifestyle?
That's what I'm curious about. Do they really become surfers and beach bums, or is that just a romanticized stereotype?
Well, the articles painted a more nuanced picture. It's not about fitting into some predefined mold. It's more about how people integrate the coastal environment into their own unique lives.
So it's less about becoming a certain type of person and more about how the environment shapes your experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people might fully embrace the surfing lifestyle. Others might be more drawn to hiking, kayaking, or exploring tide pools. It's about finding those activities that resonate with you personally.
And I imagine that sense of shared connection to the environment fosters a strong community spirit as well.
Absolutely. Many of the articles highlighted how coastal communities often come together for beach cleanups, conservation efforts, and other initiatives that support the ocean. It's like this shared responsibility and love for the place they call home.
That's really inspiring. It's more than just living in a beautiful spot. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And it brings us back to that idea of ocean view living being more than just a physical space. It's a way of life, a mindset, a connection to something greater.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final takeaways for someone who's seriously considering making the move to an ocean view apartment?
I would say first and foremost, get clear on your motivations. Why are you drawn to the coast? What are you hoping to gain from this lifestyle change?
It's about aligning your expectations with reality, right? Making sure that ocean view living is truly a good fit for you, not just a fleeting fantasy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you've clarified your motivations, do your research thoroughly. Explore different locations, connect with local real estate agents, and really immerse yourself in the communities you're considering.
Don't just fall in love with the view. Make sure the whole package works for you, from the property itself to the surrounding community and the overall lifestyle it offers.
Absolutely. And finally, remember that this is a journey, not a destination. Be prepared to adapt, to compromise, and to embrace the unexpected twists and turns along the way.
Beautifully said. It's about finding your own version of the dream and allowing yourself to be surprised by what you discover.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe that unexpected path will lead you to a place even more magical than you could have imagined.
Well, on that note of possibility and adventure, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Ocean View Apartments.
Mhm.
I hope this is giving you a better understanding of what this lifestyle is all about, and maybe even inspired you to take the plunge yourself.
And remember, whether you end up in a beachfront condo, a cozy cottage with ocean views, or simply find ways to incorporate the beauty of the coast into your everyday life, the important thing is to connect with that sense of peace and wonder that the ocean offers.
So until next time, keep those ocean breezes in your mind, and may your days be filled with the sound of crashing waves and the feeling of sand between your toes.